Hi everybody, it's Honest John. We've got the anniversary of 9/11 coming up. And one thing we should remember is that after 9/11, the United States Congress passed the Patriot Act, which was then signed by the President. Now, the congressman that passed this act never read it. And you know that George Bush never read it. Now, it's common for staff members to read legislation and summarize it for congressmen. But this was a massive bill that fundamentally changed our relationship with our government. And it changed it in ways that we haven't even begun to even think about yet. Here's an example. Now, national security letters. National security letters have existed for quite a while, but they were rarely issued. After the Patriot Act was passed, they were issued quite frequently. And in these national security letters, the government can forbid you from talking about them, or even from telling anybody, except your lawyer, that you've received one. A court order is required for a national security letter, but once it is issued, there is no judicial oversight. And reviews have found that the FBI violated the rules for issuing national security letters over 1,000 times. But once you've gotten one, you can't talk about it. And the FISA laws. The FISA laws were perfectly adequate to deal with terrorism. Bush knowingly violated the law in not following the FISA guidelines, and then got a cowardly Congress to make what he was doing illegal. So now the government has the power to fuck with us in ways that are clearly against the Constitution, and to nose into our private lives in hundreds of ways that are not necessary for combating terrorism. See, when I talk about big government, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I'm not minimizing the threat of terrorism, but is it a bigger threat than Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan during World War II? Is it a bigger threat than the USSR and China at the height of the Cold War? Is Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups really such a big threat that we need to ball up the Constitution and throw it in the trash? The only reason Al-Qaeda was successful on 9/11 was that the Bush administration was so incredibly incompetent and arrogant at the same time. Matter of fact, they were so incompetent that people just don't believe that it was possible for anybody to be that incompetent. And so we have hundreds of conspiracy theories related to 9/11. It's just hard to believe that anybody could be that fucked up. However, if you look at the record of the rest of the Bush administration, it shows that they obviously were. And so, capitalizing on people's fears and also making sure nobody actually knew what was in it, they got the Patriot Act passed. And they created the Department of Homeland Security, which is another layer of bureaucracy, which, to fulfill its stated mission, only needs to be about 1/10 the size that it is. I promise, if I'm elected president, that there will be a complete review of the Patriot Act. We will keep only those provisions necessary for our security and get rid of any unnecessary intrusions in our private lives. The government will protect its citizens, not fuck with them. There are a lot of policies in place which are being used to harass people who disagree with the government. Just because you disagree with the government doesn't mean that you're a threat. And being huge doesn't mean that you're more efficient. We have a huge intelligent establishment in the United States. It needs to be leaner and more efficient. I believe we can be secure without surrendering all of our privacy. Those things that we decide to keep will be broken into small bills so that they can be thoroughly debated in the open and that people will know what's in them. Yes, we have to defend ourselves from our enemies, but we don't have to stop being America to do that. Allowing that to happen would be giving our enemies a victory that they could not achieve by any other means. Thanks for listening.